Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Hello, and thank you for joining me. I'm Chris Stafford, and you're listening to The Horse Show here on Wisp Sports. This is Season 4, Episode 12. This week I have two guests. I'm going to be joined by Kelli Cruciotti, who last weekend won her first major Grand Prix when she took the 204,000 Coca Cola Grand Prix. That was a CSI 4-star competition at the Tryon International Equestrian Center. And it was Kelli's second win of the week on two different horses. And winning that Grand Prix was a big deal for Kelli, who was showing for the first time at Tryon. And earlier this year, she competed at the World Cup finals in Gothenburg. So this could be a big year for Kelli at the age of 21. And I caught up with her at home in Colorado to hear about this win and what it means to her in her young professional career. And then later on in the program, we're going to hear from Caitlin Henderson, who is an adult amateur eventer with just one horse, Creative Dreamer, and she competed in her first CCI 4-star long competition in Bromont, Canada last weekend. Caitlin is a full-time nurse practitioner, and we'll hear from Caitlin how she juggles her full-time career in nursing with her passion for eventing. At first, we will hear from Kelli, who won that 204,000 Coca Cola Grand Prix at Tryon this weekend, riding her 12-year-old Belgian Warmblood mare, Hadja van Orshof. Kelli, hi, welcome to the program, and huge congratulations. What a win this weekend.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Still feels very surreal. I'm just very excited about it.
And I would imagine a career highlight, really. I mean, that's a big win. $240,000 Grand Prix at Tryon. You know, that's a pretty good win as a national competition. Well, obviously international, but in the U.S.
Yes, it is definitely my biggest career win to date. I definitely didn't go into the week thinking that I was going to win the Grand Prix, but I thought the week actually started out amazing. The horses were jumping great. It was actually our first time in Tryon. I thought the horses jumped really fresh. They liked the footing. And the Grand Prix was very interesting because it actually got canceled on Saturday night due to heavy rain. So they rescheduled it for Sunday morning. It started, and then the rain picked back up, and it was unclear if they were going to have to cancel it again. So it was kind of starting and stopping, which made it quite difficult, at least for myself, to get in a good mental focus. Because when you got in the groove, then they said, no, we have 15-minute rain delay. So it was a challenge mentally as well as, even putting the pieces together, riding the course.
Yeah, we know that it can rain. We have experienced that from WEG last year, in Tryon there, where when it rains, it really can rain there and be pretty brutal. But the footing held up, did it?
Yeah, the footing held up great. Actually immediately it got a bit soupy and slick. But then as the horses went on it, I think it just really depended on your horse. If you had a horse that was comfortable in a little bit looser footing, you were fine. If you had a little bit of a cautious horse that maybe wasn't sure about where their feet were, I definitely thought that they struggled a bit more than the other ones. But I thought the footing held up great.
Now, I read somewhere that you're a bit chicken in those sort of challenging conditions, but you decided to have a go for it. Now, and obviously that gave you confidence to take the handbrake off.
For sure. And, I'm always on the more cautious side. Horses are my family, so I never, ever want to put them in a position where they could get hurt unnecessarily. And I try to be smart, and I try to think of it as this is what we do for a living, but there's always another horse show, and it's not worth one horse show for your horse to get hurt over. Obviously, unless it's, you have to make decisions based on the shows, but I always try to be smart about it and weigh the pros and cons. But this one, I kind of went back and forth, but I watched other horses were jumping. I talked to some of the riders. My horse felt great in the practice area, so I really didn't think too much about it. It definitely was on my mind, which maybe helped distract me a little bit from the course itself, which worked out. But it's definitely something I had in the back of my mind.
Well, I can't let this go without asking you about this number 9 thing you've got. You seem to get hooked, caught on the number 9. 8 strides or 10 strides or 12, whatever, but not 9 strides. What's that about?
I don't know where it came from. I've done it since I was 8 years old. It's a running joke in our family that I just, for some reason, it's like 9 is just the hardest number in the world to count. It's like it's one more than 8, one less than 10, but I can't manage to do 9. Like no matter what I do, there's actually been classes. This is sad, like professional classes where I'm literally counting out loud, screaming the numbers because I'm so petrified I'm going to mess up the 9. Like it's pretty embarrassing. But that particular last line, I knew it was kind of a huntery 9, so to speak. I thought I'd been pretty efficient everywhere else. My horse has a tendency to get a bit flat towards the end of the jump off, so I kind of had that in the back of my mind. And I thought I had cleaned up a turn or two in the beginning where I could afford to fit one more in. And as it turned out, I did. She jumped it great, and I was almost a second faster.
Yeah, well, maybe you'll overcome it now if it's going to be lucky. You maybe can turn this into a lucky 9, can you, Kelly?
I hope so, because it's getting a bit embarrassing at this point. It's like, okay, it's time to get with the 9. And it's actually funny because the day before the Hunter Derby, we had 3 horses going, and every single line was 9. It was like my worst nightmare. I was I was more nervous for that than the Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how we have those little quirks, but it worked out for you, a terrific win. And this is a partnership that's really working for you now. You've been riding the mare, what, three years now, is it?
Yep, 3 years now. And, I actually, on the plane last night, I was watching some old videos when we got her, and the word that just comes to mind is just I'm so proud of the work that we've done with her, and it really makes me happy to see how far she's come. When we got her, she was very, very green. The rideability was quite difficult. She's a very strong horse, so she always wants to go to the jumps, which is great, except when you wanted her to listen, and then she didn't really want to listen. So we've worked really, really hard on the rideability, and this year I feel like she's hit a whole new level. We were doing the math. I think she's jumped 8 Grand Prix, not including time faults because I'm a bit slow, and she's had 7 clear rounds. So, I mean, she's just been absolutely on form this whole year. And having the privilege of getting to take her to the World Cup finals, I think really elevated both of us to a new level. I think we were a bit over our head at first, but we really learned to dig down deep and trust each other, and I think it made us a better partnership.
Yeah, I was curious about that, Kelly, because obviously that's the big stage for you, going to a World Cup final. What were your biggest takeaways then from that competition?
I think the biggest takeaway is that everything can be done better. Everything, you can always learn something from everybody else. The jumps were bigger than I've ever seen. The track was very, very technical. The time was tight. All the things that you work on a daily basis that really motivates you to try to do it even better. And not just settle for it being okay, but it has to be almost perfect. And I think that's kind of what drives every type A personality athlete, is that seeking perfection in everything that we do. And we're probably never going to get close to perfect, but we always try.
Yeah, well, obviously it's consolidating your partnership. You took over the ride from Andre Ferrer, didn't you, the Brazilian rider? How did you actually come across the mare? How did that partnership start?
So we actually got a call from Emil Hendricks, who we've gotten many, many top horses from and great horses. And we had spoken to Emil that we were looking for a prospect like this. And he saw the horse at a show in Belgium and said, yeah, I really like the horse. It has a lot of talent, but definitely needs work on the rideability. And you could just tell she had all the makings of a great horse. You just had to take your time with her. And I flew over there. I think I flew over for one day. We tried her, and then it worked out great, and we bought her.
Well, you seem to favor mares, or is it just the right horse, or do you literally look for mares? You like them?
I love mares. Actually, that's another running joke. My mom actually is not a big mare fan, and somehow at one point I think we had almost the entire string be mares. I love riding them. I think they have huge hearts. They try for you. I think when you get a good one, it's hard to beat it, and especially when you get them on your side, they just want to try for you.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they're going going well for you right now. It's, you know, you're on a roll here. Had a fantastic show there. Now you're back home in Colorado, bit of mountain air for a while. You told me before, Kelly, you haven't been home much in the last year.
No, we haven't been home. We've been on the road, basically. We spend the winters in Wellington, and then last year we spent the summer in Connecticut. We do have a beautiful barn here in Colorado, a full-time business here that's run by actually my godmother, Kelly Clevenger. So she handles, while we're gone, the people here. So now we're kind of combining forces again for the summer, everyone being together. And I think it's going to be a great couple weeks.
Now, you told me also that you've now been pro for 3 years, and you work with your mother Cindy as well. Just take us back a little bit further, Kelly, as to how your riding career progressed as a child. Was it something you would naturally do because your mother and obviously your godmother, the business was there? Was it a natural progression for you?
Definitely. My mom has had a business for 35 years. Godmother, the same thing. And growing up, that's all I wanted to do. I've known what I wanted to do for my life since I was 5, and they were a great role model for me to how to do it correctly, and always putting the horses first and trying to do the best job that you possibly can for your customers, and training the horses at the highest level. So for me, it just made sense, and I absolutely love it. It's the greatest job I can think of.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. It sounds like idyllic there. And in terms of finding the horses then, Kelly, are you self-funded in that way, or do you have owners? We're not. We're a very modest family. We basically, what we make from the business is how we pay for everything showing on the road, and it's an expensive sport. We've been fortunate along the road to have great owners that have provided great horses for us. But it's a constant struggle at this day and age with the horses being so expensive. It's hard to keep up, so to speak. So we're always eager to find people that want to be part of the journey and part of the team with us and have the similar beliefs that we do. But it's challenging. It's a difficult time in the sport for sure. Yeah, it's certainly, as you say, it's expensive once you get on the road, and you have to go abroad too. You have to go to Europe, really, and get that experience, get that mileage. So let's look to the future and what your plans are now. You've got, 4 FEI horses right now?
So I actually recently just retired my mare Chamonix. She's just been an absolute horse of a lifetime for me, and she has her own miracle story that she had double colic surgery, was retired once already. We brought her back from retirement, and she actually had the best year of her life. Last year, she was 3rd in the World Cup at Columbus, gave me a lot of points to qualify for the World Cup finals. And this year, she actually is feeling great. She's totally sound, but I just felt like it was the right time for her to retire, and she's actually in our farm right now in Colorado. I'm going to go ride her in a little bit and play with her. So I actually just have the 2 horses right now. I have Hadja and Zadante, and then I have one horse that's owned by a very, very good customer of ours, Grandy, that's owned by the Cullen family, and she's been a really nice horse to try to step up to the FEI level, and we've been excited to work with her. So 3 at the current moment.
3 at the moment. Okay, so what are the plans then after you've regrouped there? What does the season look like for you?
So plans tentatively, we're here. The horses that just arrived back from Tryon will have a few weeks off. We'll gear them towards, there's 2 good national Grand Prix here in Colorado. There's 85,000 and 100. So we'll gear them towards that. And then after that, we do Traverse City in Michigan. There's 2 3-star weeks. I had put my application in for the Pan American Games, so I'm hopeful for that. I think it'd be a great opportunity. I think the horse is jumping great, so I have my fingers crossed for that.
Now, that would be exciting, wouldn't it? And going forward then, I mean, how many horses have you got coming up through the ranks then, Kelly, that hopefully will go FEI?
That's a great question. That's something we've been really playing with, and, it's great to have horses at the top level when you're in it, but you also have to, like you said, have horses in the pipeline to keep coming up and backing up the older ones. So that's something that we've been really focused on none at the current moment. So we're brainstorming, and we have actually 2 foals right now. So we're getting into some breeding a little bit. Now that's a little bit of ways away. Thinking about 8 years, we'll see what those look like. But, we're trying to do different options because, as we talked about before, it's a very expensive sport. We're not the type of family that can go out and spend millions of dollars on horses as much as we would try to. But it's something that we constantly have to be thinking about. We do a lot of sales. So if the sales are going well, then we try to put as much money together as we can to try to get some horses for the future.
Yes, and I was wondering, with all those nice mares, if you did plan on breeding with them in the future.
Yeah, exactly. We actually, the foal that we have this year, I took an embryo from Chamonix last year, and she is by animal. So I'm really excited about her. I'm a little bit biased. I think it's like parents with their children. I think she's just the most stunning yearling I've ever seen. She's beautiful. She has a really, really wonderful personality. She's enormous. She's huge. So I'm very excited about that. So yeah, I definitely have plans for that in the future. I've got a lot of great mares with some great bloodlines. And actually, Hadja, before I bought her, I'm in very close contact with her breeder. I bought her straight from the breeder. And he actually has many foals by her. He took some embryos when she was 2 and 3. And we actually own her full brother, who is now, I want to say he's going to be 2. So I'm excited about that as well. But he's still in Belgium.
Yeah, it's a long-term plan, isn't it, when you're breeding?
It's not the most efficient way. It's not like, well, next year we're going to have all these horses, but hopefully in time we can get some horses in that can fill the gaps for the next few years, and then hopefully in a couple more years, then we have some really nice ones coming up.
Yeah, well, I think the future is exciting. Obviously, you're making your mark there now, but so this great form, it's all about consistency, isn't it? And you've proved that with these horses. So you mentioned that your mother was your coach. Your mother, Cindy, was your coach. Do you do any coaching yourself? Do you have time?
I do, actually. Yeah, I love to teach when we're at home. Even on the road, we have students. I really enjoy teaching. I think you learn a lot about your own riding, teaching, because it's one thing to just do it. It's another to explain to someone how to do what you're trying to have them do it. It put it into words is quite difficult. And that's something I didn't fully understand until I was a professional and had to walk people through something that I already knew how to do, but they were a little bit rusty on. So I think it also elevates your riding, and it's very rewarding. It's a really nice feeling to see your student be successful and the horses be successful, so I do really enjoy it.
Well, you mentioned earlier how you have the dream job. So my final question would be, what do you most value, Kelli, about being involved in sport per se? Obviously, equestrian sport, horses are your passion, but the whole sort of ethos of sport and being a sportswoman, what do you most value about that?
The first thing that comes to mind is probably that I get to do it with my family. I think it would be very, very rewarding and very fun to do it by myself, but I also think it elevates it to a whole new level when you're with family. And sport day in and day out is very, very challenging. We're a very, very faith-based family. And I think that helps keep it more even-keeled, because the highs and the lows of the sport are very, very high and very, very low. So if you allow yourself to get on that roller coaster, it kind of gets you in this crazy spinning cycle. And I feel like we're surrounded by my family and friends and the faith keeping us strong. We're able to keep it more even keel, if that makes any sense, so that the sport itself is not all consuming. It's what we do, but it's not who we are. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, because if you live your life from clear round to clear round, I think you're not really living the full purpose of it.
Well, I know that I caught you as you're leaving the gym here and you're taking advantage of being on mountain time, having been on Eastern, and that's important to you too. So cross-training is something that you do make time for.
Definitely. I think it's the horses. That you have to be physically fit, able to do your job just like you condition the horses. Fitness is really important to me. Eating right, staying on a regular schedule, going to the gym, meeting with personal trainers, that all can really help improve your riding. And I'm a big, big supporter of that. We encourage our students to go to the gym, even at 17. You don't have to be doing crazy things, but any amount of exercise is good just to keep your muscles strong.
Yeah, good for you. And what would be your sport of choice then if you weren't riding?
Oh, that's so hard. Gosh, that's so difficult. I'm very not coordinated with anything with a ball. I'm very afraid of the ball, like soccer or baseball or anything like that. So it kind of limits my choices. That's such a hard choice. Gosh, I don't know. I did play for like 2 seconds when I was like 5, soccer, and I thought it was quite fun. So maybe a soccer.
Maybe soccer. Okay. So do you follow the World Cup is happening now? That's a major competition, and the Team USA are one of the favorites. Would that be something you might watch on TV?
I think if I got the chance to sit down and watch TV, it would definitely be interesting to watch. I always have a lot of respect for other disciplines because, you know, the athletes are so they're so fit, and the sport they do is so demanding. So I have a lot of respect for them. So anytime I can watch and appreciate that, I do take the opportunity to do that. Well,
it's all about dedication and passion, isn't it, when it comes to sport? And you certainly have it in bucket loads, Kelli. And I think you're on a roll now. You've certainly found some form. So congratulations again on such a big win, and the very, very best of luck. Thanks for taking time to come on the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Caitlin Henderson from Michigan is a full-time nurse practitioner in the oncology department in Ann Arbor Hospital. And in her spare time, she is an adult amateur eventer with just one horse, Creative Dreamer. The pair just returned from Bromont in Canada, where they competed in their first CCI4-Star long competition. And I began our conversation by talking about soccer, given that it's the Soccer World Cup final taking place right now. And Caitlin used to be a soccer player until she decided to turn her attention to eventing. Hi, Caitlin. Thank you for joining me, and welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, I thought it'd be a curious story now to tell your story about being an adult amateur eventing at the highest level, but just with one pony. And also during the Soccer World Cup, because as everybody knows who follows soccer, it is the World Cup, and you're probably cheering on Team USA, aren't you?
I am. I surprisingly don't watch soccer that much on TV just because of the lack of time. But yes, I would always say go USA.
Go USA. Okay, well, they're one of the favorites here. And I mentioned it because if people are not familiar with your background, you played soccer quite seriously, didn't you?
Yeah, I played in college at Western Michigan University for 4 years. And prior to that, had played on a travel team out of Michigan and on my high school team as well.
Yeah, you really actually got. Was it at one point that you really were working out, in trying out for the big league? Is something that you wanted to do quite seriously?
Yeah. So we, growing up, pretty much everyone on my travel team. Actually, I think everyone played Division I soccer, and most of us were on what was called at the time the Olympic Development Program through the state of Michigan, and then we would go to a regional development camp every year and go to nationals. And I actually did have experience participating on the regional development team as well, and playing against the other regions within the country. So down in Texas at one point. So
okay. Yeah. All right. Well, it would have been remiss of me not to mention your soccer, but that's not the lead story here, because you decided to follow your passion with horses and take that route, but also while maintaining a full-time job as a nurse. So give us a little bit of background, Caitlin. I mean, when did you actually start riding? I mean, it's a family affair there, so you probably started very young. Did you always know that you would take it up as an amateur and continue to have a career alongside it?
Yeah, so I started when pretty much right when I was born. My mom has been a trainer my whole entire life and runs a business out of Michigan. So it's always been a passion of ours. I don't think there's ever been any doubt in my mind that I would ride my whole life and always want to be competing. There was times growing up and that I had thought about maybe doing it as a career, but then I just had so many other things going on, especially with soccer and things like that. And when I had to commit to soccer my sophomore year of high school. So at the time I was sort of trying to decide what avenue I was going to go and study school-wise. So my now husband, but at the time boyfriend's mother and sister are nurses, so they had suggested that I apply to nursing school. So that's sort of how I got started on that avenue, and then I absolutely fell in love with it, and I couldn't say enough about my career. And it actually found out sort of while I was going through nursing school how easy it was to work. Not that 12-hour shifts are easy, but it was fairly easy to make riding work within the 12-hour, 3-day-a-week nursing schedule and being able to travel to competitions and things like that. So that played in a lot as well.
Well, obviously it's working out for you. We're going to talk about your recent trip to Bromont in Canada to compete up there. But explain a little bit more about what you do in nursing now, Caitlin, what you specialize in.
Yeah, so I, about 5 years ago, at the time, Molson, my horse now, was injured. And so I, liking to be crazy busy, thought it was smart to apply for grad school. So I went back. So I'm now currently a nurse practitioner at Michigan Medicine in the head and neck radiation oncology department. And I work full-time here, and I worked full-time as a nurse while I was in grad school and still trying to compete and things like that.
Well, you've found time to continue riding, obviously, and you've got yourself a nice horse there that you took up to Bromont recently to have a crack there at the highest, it's probably the highest level you competed at, and the CCI 4-star long. And you had mentioned to me before, Caitlin, you went up to do a recce and competed last year in Bromont in Canada. But going back this year, there was a big leap. Let's talk about that trip. It's a bit of a hike for you. Talk us through the weekend.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. I mean, obviously there's much room for improvement in every phase at this point. We're still gaining a ton of experience, the two of us together. But overall, I was so happy with him and so happy with the way he came out of the weekend, and both of us learned so much. Dressage, he's a thoroughbred off the track and does tend to get a little tense in the dressage arena and doesn't have the most natural movement. So that's always been a little bit of a work in progress. So we're just continuing to chip away at that slowly. He's an amazing cross-country horse. I mean, he just makes it all feel so easy. And I did have one small bobble out on course coming into the second water. I lost a shoe right before the water, and on landing, I just felt him slip a little bit. And when I sort of looked up, I was on a half stride to the duck in the water. So I did a quick circle left and just popped right through, and he jumped all the other hard combinations really well. So I was super happy with him there. And I was actually I think I would have been really close to the time if it wouldn't have been for that small issue there at the water. And show jumping, he felt great on Sunday morning. I was super happy with that because you just never know how they're going to fare through a long cross-country course. And he was jumping really well. I had a good warm-up plan, and I was super happy with that. And I did unfortunately have 3 rails, which all seemed to come at verticals that were standalone. And, I have a plan going forward, working on straightness and just getting better with that. But it's all a work in progress, and we're both learning, and we're both come out of it really well. So I'm happy.
Yeah. I mean, it is a work in progress, isn't it? I mean, it was your nemesis last year in Bromont, wasn't it? You had a few rails, as I recall. So,
yeah.
but that's not your usual. I mean, that was we don't want people to think he's a bad show jumper, but he is a fabulous horse, and he must give you a terrific ride cross country because he just looks fabulous.
Yeah, he really does. I mean, the thoroughbred in him, he's just such a light galloper, and he's so fast. So Not that I usually am the one to slow him down, but no, he's a really good cross-country horse, and he's just gives me a lot of confidence. So it's a really nice feeling.
And because of your job and because you just have the one horse, you actually measure his competition schedule very carefully. You don't override him. You don't travel to him, because it obviously is a trek from Ann Arbor, Michigan to get to competitions in the north, obviously Midwest. So talk a little bit about how you do strategize with him, Caitlin. How do you pick your events?
Yeah, so luckily he's a horse that doesn't require a lot of showing, which I've been very fortunate. So in the beginning of the year, this year we went to Carolina. In years past, we've gone to a little bit softer of a show. But after, him doing so well last fall and sort of stepping up to the advanced level, we thought doing the 3-star short at Carolina would be a good test for him. He actually is one that does a little better with more of an atmosphere, because it just holds him off the jumps a little bit and gets him paying more attention. So that was sort of our thought process going into this year, and just maximizing the travel and things like that and what we're going to get out of it. So we hit Carolina, and then unfortunately this year we went to Fairhill and got rained out of cross country. So weren't able to run there. So we only had Carolina and then Jersey Fresh leading up to Bromont, which as an adult amateur with one horse was a little nerve-wracking, only having done 2 cross-country runs for the year. But just trying to school a lot at home and just keep him feeling really fresh. I try at home to keep the work and things like, and gallops and things like that as easy as possible, so he's just feeling really confident going into the shows.
So talk about your routine with him, with only having the one horse to compete, to show with. Do you get to ride any other horses, Caitlin?
I don't on a regular basis. I probably could, and I think now that, last year I was still finishing grad school and trying to find a job and doing all these other things in life. So it was difficult to find the time for 2 horses. Ultimately, my goal would be to have something young coming along. My mom, as a trainer, she does have her horse that she competes and a couple of other young horses. So the goal would be to try to make more time to ride some other horses at home. But I would not say right now consistently that I'm doing that, no.
Do you do any cross-training then, Caitlin, to keep fit when you just have the one horse?
Yes, I do a lot of running. As a soccer player, I've always been one that was in the gym and being coached a lot. So it's been interesting after college trying to find, what I like in working out, because I was always told everything that I had to do. And so recently my husband and I actually joined a gym out of our hometown, and more of a CrossFit type HIIT workout gym. So we do that and do a lot of running and things on the side, just to try to stay fit. It's definitely something that's always been a passion of mine. So I do strongly believe that needs to be done when you're riding at the upper levels.
Now, I did read that you felt that soccer and the discipline that you had for training and playing has actually helped your riding. Talk a little bit more about that. What do you think that you brought from soccer that is helping your riding career? Yeah,
being part of a collegiate sport, and then also growing up playing something that requires so much discipline, there's a lot of attention to detail. So definitely with my riding, sort of, we would always be given mapped out workouts and what we expected to get out of every day. And that they were very clear standards from a coach's aspect of, and the level that they would want us to perform at each day. And so I think bringing that to my riding and just having a high standard each day, and especially with one horse, trying to get the maximum out of each workout is super important. So sort of mapping out what I want to do with him each day, even if it's just the day that I'm going out to do trot work, exactly how many minutes I'm going to walk, exactly how many minutes I'm going to trot, and just, paying attention to every little detail and how he feels. My sister and one of my best friends, they, do some of his trot work and things if I'm out of town, and I always leave them like very detailed notes and how many minutes I want him iced, and they're always laughing at me because, it's a little crazy, but to me, that's how I was trained and how I was taught growing up, even through soccer and things. So I've brought that over to riding a lot.
Do you feel that because you were coached so much in soccer that it is helpful to you to be coached in riding, or would you feel now you have enough experience to not have that kind of intensity of coaching going forward? And even if you take on more horses, how do you feel about that, the importance of having a coach?
Yeah, I would always say it's important to have a coach. I don't think that, especially in riding, there's always so much to learn. I don't think I'll ever feel that I don't need help or that I know it all. You're humbled every day by what you don't know. So I definitely think, my mom has been, my main coach most of my life, and sure, in high school and things like that, we'd get in the occasional argument, but for the most part, being coachable and trainable is so important, and I was always taught that growing up. And then we have clinicians come in and other people we work with regularly on the flat and things like that, and I think it's so important to be open to instruction and criticism all the time, and that's, to me, the only way that you're going to improve, and being very honest with yourself and what your weaknesses are. So.
Well, clearly you love your day job and you love, eventing. So in terms, if you look ahead to the future, do you think you might be tempted to become a professional, or do you like this balance as it is?
So hard to say, because right now I absolutely love my job. I can't imagine not seeing my patients and sort of knowing what they're going through, and how humbling, again, that it is to see people. I come in here and I'm working with people that are going, through cancer treatments every single day. And then you leave work and, some days are super busy, but you're so grateful for just your health in general and the perspective that you have on life, and how lucky we are to get to go home after work and go ride our horses. And there's people that are stuck in the hospital and going through chemo treatments and things like that. So I can't imagine not having that as part of my life. I do think I would like to train a little more in terms of maybe having a second horse. And I do think now in the next year or two that could be possible time-wise. So that's definitely something I've thought about, but I don't think that I'll ever full-time be riding.
So what's next then for Creative Dreamer, or Molsom as you call him?
He's going to have a short vacation right now, probably just a couple weeks, and then get him back into hacking and things like that. I try usually not to show in July anyway, because it's hot and typically the ground's hard in Michigan. This year it may not be, since we've had so much rain. But probably the aim would be the AECs, which seems like a really long time away right now. I think it's about 10 weeks away. So potentially going to something earlier in August, but not 100% sure with that yet, but definitely the AECs, hopefully.
At the Kentucky Horse Park, and that's at the end of August, of course, running through that last weekend of August into September. First time at the Kentucky Horse Park, so that should be fun. I know they've got a lot of parties lined up as well, Caitlin, so it should be a blast.
Yeah, it looks like a really fun event. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you there, and I want to thank you for taking time to come on the program. And good luck with Creative Dreamer. We look forward to seeing you again out there.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and you guys have a good day.
Full Time, the soccer show with Katie Stengel, only on Wisp Sports.
And that's our show for this week. My thanks again to Kelli and Caitlin. Don't forget that you can find a lot more podcasts at Wisp Sports by subscribing to Wisp Sports on your podcast player as well. You can listen online at wispsports.com, where you'll find a lot more coverage of women's sports, including videos, articles, and blogs. And you can always join in the conversation by following us at Wisp Sports on social media channels. And you could also reach us here directly if you prefer to drop us a line. That's info@wispsports.com. We always love to hear from you. So until the next time, thank you for listening and supporting women in sport everywhere.